Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron. Today's very special guest is Mr. Ryan Timm, who is running for MISD School Board, Place 3, currently held by Mr. Eduardo Gonzalez. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, DV. Happy
Well,
to be here, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
you know what? I'm very happy that you decided to come on. I love it when you guys come on and talk to the people. You know, I you know, I thank every candidate that comes on for wanting to serve their community because I know this is not easy and it's something that requires prayer, family, and tough skin. Sometimes things get a little bit crazy, but you decided to run and you decided to put your ring in the hat, and for that I appreciate you. Um, why don't you go ahead and kind of just share a little bit about your background and what motivated you to run for MISD?
Yeah, absolutely. Like DV said, my name is Ryan Timm. I'm a proud resident of Midlothian, lived here for the past uh, 15 years. Grew up in Cedar Hill, right down the road. Don't hold that against me, though. Okay, like I said, I'm happy and proud Midlothian resident these days. Married to my wife, Megan, for the last 13 years. It'll be 14, 13, sorry, 12 years, 13 in October. Sorry, Megan. We have two beautiful children, Charlie, who is 10, about to be 11, and Maggie, who is 6, going to be 7 here in a couple of months. I started my, adult career in education. I spent 15 years as an educator, from teacher to coach to ended as an administrator. And so I know how important the role of a school board member is, how important education is in our community, not just for the kids and the parents, but for the entire community. And so when I got out 2 years ago, I told my wife, hey, I've got to still find a way to make sure that I'm serving and giving back to the community. And about a month or so ago, she said, hey, quit talking about it and do it. So, like DV said, I threw my hat in the ring because I knew it was time. It was time to go, and it was needed. I love our school board. I love our school. All of our members right now are amazing, and I hate that I have to go against Eduardo because he's done a great job the last 3 years. And like DV said, I'm very appreciative of him, of anyone that will serve. But I had to pick a spot, and here we are.
Well, unfortunately, when it comes to political races, there are two people in it. And, sometimes we get fortunate, like in this case, where you have two very good people that are running for the seat. And, those are decisions that the people have to make at the voting booth. But, you were in education.
Yes, sir.
I think, you had said something about being a vice principal. Why'd you step away? And can you tell me about that? Your experience? Cause you
Yeah.
were an educator, you were a vice principal. So those are your wheelhouse. Can you tell me about that?
Absolutely. So, like I said, it all started in Austin ISD at this point now, 17, 18 years ago. I was a teacher and a coach, taught elementary PE, coached high school baseball. Perfect job. Littles in the morning, bigs in the afternoon, coaching baseball. Loved it. Did that for 2 years. And then that's when my career with Midlothian started. I was the PE teacher at J.R. Irvin. A lot of people listening or maybe watching this probably know me as Coach Timm. Coach Timm, the rowdy runner guy. I did PE at Irvin for 5 years. And then because I knew I wanted to get into administration, thanks to a very hard push by the amazing Jean Embry, my former principal, when she retired, she said, hey, you're going to be a principal, so go back to school. And so once I got that admin certificate, I knew I needed to walk a mile in a traditional classroom. I always say traditional because my gym was a classroom. Any PE teachers or coaches listening, your gym is a classroom. And so I went into a traditional classroom in a 4th grade for 1 year. So 6 years total at J.R. Irvin, and then went over to Burleson ISD for 4 years, spent 1 year as an assistant principal, 3 years as a principal, and then was lucky enough to get to come back to Midlothian ISD at Baxter Elementary for 3 years. I served as principal. My first year back, I don't mean to give anybody PTSD right now or anything, but it was about this time in 2020 when our kids left for spring break and never came back that school year because of COVID. So that was my first year at Baxter. And then I served as a principal the following 2 years, and things were different. This education world that we're in has changed due to COVID, and it's not necessarily all for the worse. So many great things came out of that. But that was part of the reason why I've been asked a lot of times, why did you step away from education? That was number one. I was at 15 years. And I had to make a decision if I was going to go left or right, if I was going to continue into education or try my hand at something else. And an opportunity arose with a great friend of mine, Adam Rope, And we were sitting at breakfast one Christmas break morning, and he said, what are you going to do? And I was like, man, Adam, I'm at 15 years. I love being a principal. I love the students. I love the parents. I love the teachers. I love what I do, but it's stressful. And that hasn't changed one bit for any administrator in any district, especially in Midlothian ISD too. Those are the ones that I know the best. And so I know that the stress level's high. And so at that moment, I didn't know that I wanted to continue being a principal for 15 more years. And Adam said, well, I got this opportunity. Need a little help in my office, need some marketing, some leadership. And he goes, pray about it, think about it, talk to Megan about it. I did that, and the opportunity came. I jumped on it as my current role. I'm the marketing director for Adam Rope State Farm out of Waxahachie and Mansfield. I love what I do because I still get to be tied into the schools. From the day I stepped out of education, I'm still tied in. I'm still watching board meetings. I'm still talking to principals. I'm still talking to administrators, students, teachers. You can't escape it. You say, I may have stepped out of education, but in my heart, in my mind, I'm still an educator.
Field, and it is the bug that gets into you to educate. It's been a very rewarding part of my career. But what is your educational philosophy, Ryan, and how do you think it would fit as a board member?
Man, that's a great question, DV, and I've said it from when I was a teacher to when I became an administrator, and it's painted on the wall at Baxter now. You got to love kids first. That's my number one thing. You got to build relationships, and by loving kids first, you're able to build that relationship. One of the hardest things that people always think, oh, he's all about kids and he's only about kids. Well, that's not true. Sometimes loving kids first means taking care of teachers first. You have to make sure that they're in the right mindset, teachers, administrators, parents, that everybody's in the correct mindset in order to learn, because you can't teach them until you reach them. All right. And for the teachers out there, you can't, what is it? I used to say it all the time. You can't bloom them till you Maslow them, So
Maslow. Oh, look we're going into first year psychology in that one. I like that.
Yeah. So that's in a nutshell. It's loving kids first. It's taking care of relationships, not just with students, but with families, with community. You have to be a steward over your community and know that you're taking care of that. And so that's where a board member's role comes in a lot more. You got to take that 30,000 foot view, where I think that would serve me well as a board member. Is I know what the dialed in view looks like, and I know what the 30,000 foot view looks like me now as a community member. And being able to pair both of those together, that's only going to, in my opinion, help our district and help our community.
Talk to me about your priorities. What is the number one or most important, or what are your priorities that you feel the board needs?
Yeah, I think it goes back to, when you look at policy, board policy says the board's got two jobs. Number one, hire, fire, keep up with the superintendent's contract. Number two, set and maintain a good budget. And as a board member, I think we got to stick to those two things, because if you do those right, everything else falls into place. It's like, as a principal, I said, if you love kids first, everything else comes after. So if we can, which Dr. Belding, I had the opportunity to meet him and talk to him a couple of weeks ago. He's doing amazing things. It was a great hire by our board. Our board did an amazing job of bringing him in. And so the hiring part of the superintendent, should I get, put in this position, I don't have to worry about that. We did it. It's just the maintaining of the contract now. And so if we can keep up with those pieces, then a great superintendent's going to hire great admin. A great admin is going to hire great teachers. Great teachers are going to teach great students. And it's going to domino down to effect. And then should something, fall out of place in that, we get a domino out of line, and it's in our realm from that 30,000 foot view to help put it back in place, then that's what we do. I think that's priority number one, is remembering that we have that far out view to help take care of our community.
One of the things about being a board member is answering to the public, and they have a lot, they have concerns, and you're going to have to answer them. And in that comes transparency. How important is transparency to you?
Man, I think communication is huge. I'll tell you, that we are in a community that cares about their schools and cares about their board members, because people like you, DV, as soon as I filed, you said, hey man, get on this show and talk. I want to know. And hearing your story, when I had the opportunity to talk to you yesterday of why you do this, that shows you we're in a strong community, and you weren't the only person. I've gotten multiple emails, Facebook messages. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, where do you stand on this? People don't just want to walk into a booth and vote. They want to be informed. and I love that, and that's why I don't shy away from the questions. Any who's watching this, you got a question, I've got a Facebook page that you can hit me up on. Ryan Timm for MISD. Shoot me your messages. You want to talk? I'm not gonna blast my cell phone number out here. For the whole 214-263-4596. Shoot me a text. Give me a call. Completely open, transparent as far as that goes.
There you have it. Now you got his number. Do not prank call the
Don't
man.
spam me.
Don't spam him. Don't do that. Um, so yeah, transparency comes in there, and the one of the other duties that come into um, being a board member is time. And what I say by that is that a board member is required to spend a lot of time doing the functions, being involved. Um, do you have the time it will take to commit to this?
Yeah, absolutely. That's something that, I said at the beginning, I've got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old, but they were involved in this conversation before I jumped in because, you talk about loving kids first. Like I love mine first. And it was a decision that Megan and I, once we agreed, hey, this is something I want to move towards, we had the conversation with Maggie and Charlie and said, hey, Dad's thinking about doing this. It's going to take away some time, but I want to commit to helping you guys at school because they're students. They're students in this district. We want to make your school, your teachers, everything that you're going to grow up in and be a part of, the absolute best that it can be. So that may mean that Dad's gone a little bit more, and it's more because I know and understand it's more than one night a month. And I don't want to just be that board member that shows up one night a month. I want to be the board member that is at the athletic events. I want to be at the plays. It's theater and schools month. I want to be there to see that. I want to listen to our band. I want to hear our choir sing. I want to do all the things to represent what makes us MISD proud.
Yeah. Now, one of the other things that come into being a board member is the budget. Now, for
Mhm.
those of you that don't know, and that may be from out of state, the biggest part of your tax burden on your home is the school district. That is by far the biggest chunk of it. Your taxes, when it come in, the biggest part is the schools, then the city, then the county. And those taxing entities, that's kind of how it rolls in a nutshell, kind of the most simplistic view. So, Ryan, you'll be setting budgets. You'll be doing taxes. So people are struggling with taxes and the bills that they're getting. So, what can the parents, the people, Midlothian, what can they expect from you as a board member when it relates to taxes?
I'll tell you what, DV, when it comes to taxes, that that's a part of everyone's life. We're all struggling in this time right now. We all have to set a budget. We all have to make sure that we're staying and living within our means. And me as a board member, I want to make sure that I'm being a good steward of our community's money. Every tax bid, everything that comes in, I want to make sure that I am as knowledgeable and understanding as possible so that we're making sure that we are spending the community's money in the correct way. And the way that you do that, again, is open transparency. You ask questions when you're not sure of something. We research and we make sure that we are putting our dollars in the best place when it comes to this district as possible.
Yeah. Now you're going to be, if you are elected, you're going to be coming in right around budget time, although
Yeah.
it's closer to the like middle to end, but you're going to be coming in and you would be the one voting on the budget that they set. Um, there's talk about downturns throughout schools in North Texas. They're dealing with budget deficits and shortfalls, and MISD apparently is not immune to that. There was some talk about that there was going to be some tightening and things that had to tighten up because of money. So, can you speak on how you will handle the budget, and what cuts are acceptable and not acceptable to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love, DB, how you said that MISD is not, the only one. This isn't an MISD issue. This is a state issue. This is a national issue where we're seeing these taxes and these cuts come out where we're now MISD, me as a community member, we are in a deficit. I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch the budgeting workshop last night, but we do have some things that we have to figure out. And should I be elected on the board, I'm jumping right in. I mean, might as well, right? 2 feet in, let's go. It's time to help and figure out where we can cut costs. And now it's a great thing you said. Where do we cut costs? And I'll be completely transparent and honest with you. I don't have the answer for that right now because I haven't seen all those things. It's going to take hard work as a board and as a community to figure out how we can make sure that we are moving forward with a balanced budget that is doing the best for our community and for our students, and not cutting out the necessities that our students need to further their education.
Well, like I told you, honesty is a big winner with people. They want to know. I mean, some people like to get their ear tickled. I get it, but the honesty goes a long way, especially when you're facing a downturn, when you're facing some issues there. Um, there was talk about the state, and I don't know if you've had a chance to look at school funding, but it is a juggernaut. It is crazy. It is very, very complex. There's a lot of things that go into it, but basically there is like $68 billion or something that the state has. The schools were expecting that there was going to be a school funding bill giving extra money to the schools. They were kind of banking on that, and then the other things were demography, how many people were going to move in, how many kids were going to move in. Those were all things that were focused in. Now, I don't expect you to be about the numbers. You're the candidate, but um, when the school district comes to you and says, this is how it's going to grow. This is what we're going to need. This is this and this and this. When they put those things in front of you, will you do the research to verify those things? Does it look like we're going to grow 1,200 students? I mean,
Yeah,
are all the indicators there? Are you going to do the homework to do that?
absolutely. Because I've had the honor of sitting and watching the budget meetings in the demographer, and when they give their numbers, crazy the predictions that they make and how far out they can go, and they're usually pretty close. But when we're
Yeah.
dealing with this much money, we can't go on the hope of a usually, and so we talk about all my connections that I've created and that I've made in the education world, but as a community member, I talked about my amazing wife. We own, I say we own a small business
That's
in
a smart
town.
move. Yeah.
And so, not only have I created relationships within the education world in the current role that I'm in, and as being a small business owner, I've created relationships all across this community. So when it comes to, hey, what are the trends in people moving in? Are we still selling as many homes? Are we selling as many lots? Are people coming? This demographer is saying, we got to research that, and we got to know if that's going to be correct. Because when we're talking about the money to educate our students and the taxes that our taxpayers, our community members are paying, we got to be as close as we can. Nobody's going to be perfect, but we want to make sure that we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's to check those numbers.
Let's get a little bit into your wheelhouse a little bit, because I mean, it's
Yeah.
obvious that you know about finance and budget, because that's you when you're in business, you have to know a little bit of that. But the the the, the argument in some of these years has been about technology in the classroom and how it's
Mhm.
applied and how it's used. Um, Obviously, that's something that would have to come from the superintendent, but you understand the classroom in that sense. So, can you talk on technology, and maybe how would you deal with a parent that says, "Hey, I don't think this is being very effective"?
Mhm. Absolutely, man. I got to be here when we did the Chromebook rollout, when we did the technology rollout, when we went 1-to-1. Technology, 1,000,000% has a place in our classrooms. It is not the end all be all in our classrooms. We have to be able to have a mix, because when we're talking about our kids as we move through, and I mean, we're in 2023, we're preparing these kids to be the leaders of tomorrow. They've got to know how to do certain things when it comes to technology. But you know what else they got to be able to do is have a conversation like you and I are doing right now, DB. And if they've got their nose in their computer all day long and they can only text on their phone, we're not setting them up to be successful. Is technology useful in the classroom? Absolutely. Has 1-to-1 helped us? Absolutely. But should our students be on their Chromebooks or iPads, whatever age that they're at, all day long? No. Should it be used as a replacement? No. Should it be used
No.
as an enhancement? Absolutely. If a teacher can use technology to enhance the lesson that they're teaching, then that's where the money's made. That's where it comes and goes hand in hand. And that's why I believe technology does have a place in our classrooms. I mean, it's 2023. We've got to use it, but not just it.
Talk about life skills. CTE, CTE, and maybe back in the day, and I'm gonna date myself here. They had like a home ec class where they showed you how to write a check, how to deal with a budget, how to, manage your money a little bit. Those kind of classes have kind of went to the wayside. There's a lot of life skills that they can get that'll make them productive. There's also
Mhm.
things like CT where if they learn how to weld and they learn how to be an electrician, if they learn how to do HVAC, they're gonna make good money, and they're the sky's the limit in those things, and they don't become part of the student loan issues. Can you
Absolutely.
speak about your what are your thoughts on CTE and where would you like to go with that?
Talk about CTE. Now you're really in my wheelhouse. I currently serve as a board member um, for the Mile for Midlothian's Innovative Learning Environment. And so if you haven't been over there yet, you need to go eat at Scratch Kitchen Tuesday through Thursday, 11 to 12:30, I think. Amazing food, student led, student run. And it's all about the amazing things that are happening in our district. Now, the Mile houses a lot of it, but we still have great CTE programs starting at the middle school and also over at MHS, over at Heritage, that are taking place day in and day out. I love how you said, we've got to train these kids in life skills to become, the next workers of tomorrow. And that doesn't always just mean a 4-year college degree. Okay. Notice I said earlier, my amazing wife, Megan, the small business owner, she's a hairstylist and she did all that by going to cosmetology school. Owned her
Yep.
own business for the last 13 years. Really owned her own business since she was 18 years old. I won't tell your age, babe.
Don't
Um,
do Yeah, don't do that.
but so and that's what supported our family. That's been half of what supported our family without a traditional college degree. So one of my most favorite things that I've done the last 2 years is I got to serve at the career fair at MHS. Thanks to the great team that they have there, put on this fair, and I got to sit there and I talk to kids, and they come over and they're like, "Hey, you're with State Farm. Where's Jake?" And the number one question after I tell them where Jake is that I ask them is, "Hey, what are you going to do? What are your plans after high school?" And their minds, a lot of them automatically goes to, "Well, I don't know. I haven't been accepted to a college. I'm not going." And I said, "Hey, I didn't ask what college you're going to. I said, what plans do you have after high school? Because I want to know how are you going to become a tax paying citizen in our community that's helping the environment and helping us move towards the future, whether that be school, whether that be going to college, which college is amazing. I've got a college degree, I've got a master's degree, but also being a welder is awesome, being a plumber is awesome, being a hairstylist is awesome. There's so many other avenues that you can travel down without a traditional 4-year degree or
Yeah.
6 year or 8 year.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm a big proponent of it. Miss Tim, this man, I like him. I'm gaining his kung fu for Mrs. LeBron right now. He is very good. The so community involvement is integral for MISD to flourish. That is,
Mhm.
it is absolutely needed, and a relationship between the students, the teachers, and the community. How do you, if you were elected, how do you plan on fostering that?
Oh man, I'm going to continue to be MISD proud. And anytime you look on my social media, anytime you run into me in the streets of Midlothian, I'm going to tell you about the great things that are going on. Hey, did you see how many people showed up for Midlothian High versus Heritage baseball last night? It was a wonderful game. Hey, did you see what we had a state champion wrestler, a couple weeks back? Hey, did you see what our theater classes are doing? And I'm going to continue to be a proponent and the biggest cheerleader, for lack of better words, of our teachers and our students and everything that we're doing. It's not just high school. What about our DI teams? Did you see what those elementary kids did the last couple of months? I'm going to foster those relationships. And if a teacher or principal should reach out and say, "Hey, we're doing a career day for this. Hey, I know a guy that might be able to come in and talk to you about taxes." Right? We're all on Team MISD.
Right.
If you live in this community and you want to serve this community, then serve it with the gifts that you are given. And that's what I truly believe that we have to help bring together is use the gifts because we've got them all across this community. We've got so many amazing residents, amazing people that have so much to offer in so many different ways. Let's foster all that power and bring it together.
I love your passion for that. That is cool because community involvement is definitely a thing. Now, there's been a lot of discussions in the community about some of the things that maybe have happened or not happened in the school district. And there's going to be a time, Mr. Tim, where if you're elected a board member, you might have to be willing to hold the district accountable Are
Absolutely.
you going to be able to do that and vigorously if needed?
Man, let me tell you what, that's where it comes with my experience. You know, my experience of running a campus is the exact same. You know, say you go all the way back to starting when I ran a classroom. I ran a classroom and I had to hold my kids accountable, and I had a principal that held me accountable. Okay, then you moved up, and I was an assistant principal who held somewhat accountable the teachers, and the principal held me, and then I ran my own campus as a principal, and everybody's got a boss. You know, but you have to be able to have those tough conversations. And if you can't have those tough conversations, then you're not helping people grow. And I tell you what, you want to talk about uncomfortable situations. You sit in an office with a principal and an assistant principal and a teacher who, unbeknownst to them, you know, they're trying to do their best, but you got to help them grow. You got to have a tough conversation with them. Hey, this was not the right way to handle that. You made a mistake. We need to correct that. How are you going to correct that? And when you can have those strong conversations, that's how people grow. We have to be held accountable. Me as a board member, those other six, should I be elected, those other six board members up there, along with Dr. Belding, are going to hold me accountable. When I come home at night, if I say something stupid, Megan's going to hold me accountable. You know,
Right.
and that's what we have to do. And it comes down to tough conversations. And you know, I'm an adult and I'm ready to have it. I've had plenty
Okay.
of them, and I have no problem having that.
Okay. Well, I mean, because it is definitely something that has to be done as a board member. Now, another thing that the board deals with is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And discipline has been a hot button issue because there's been various complaints online, and I know online is not the real world, but there are people and they're posting, and so
Mm-hmm.
there are people and they're posting and they're saying my kid got bullied. There was an incident at a gym where a bunch of little kids had bruises on them. There's been things throughout the years, and so parents are going to come up to you, and there's been talks about kids being bullied relentlessly. So what are your thoughts on bullying? And in if you were the one man board guy, what would you like to, if you could make the decision, executive decision, what would you do about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you know, we talk about bullying. Bullying has been a big hot topic word for a long time, probably going back to when you and I were kids in school, DV, you know. And the great thing that has been created when you look at it as a district, MISD has a bullying checklist, okay? Because we have to have a protocol. We have to have a system in which we are going to measure things against. Now, every situation and every circumstance is different, but as a principal and as an assistant principal, when I was over discipline, when a parent called in and said my student's being bullied, we didn't take that lightly, and it's still, as a board member, it doesn't need to be taken lightly. Okay, we need to know that there are checks and balances and things in place to where we are investigating these situations. I'll tell you what, as a board member, if a community member came to me and said my student's being bullied, this is happening, I see it online, question number one, have you talked to the teacher? Question number two, have you talked to the principal? And I'll tell you what, DV, that's going to make some people mad. But I would stand behind that right now because I know as a principal, I need to have been addressed with those things first. And now, guess what? If they say yes and the principal hasn't investigated or hasn't gone through those steps, then that's a call to Dr. Belding or Miss Tipton, probably before Dr. Belding. That would go to Miss Tipton because that falls in her realm. But we've got to still stick to those same steps and processes to make sure that it climbs that ladder and it gets taken care of appropriately. There's a process for it, you know, and
Right.
you can't jump to the top. If my wife came to me and said, "Take care of this," I'd say, "Talk to the principal," you know, and
Yeah.
that's what we have to do. We have to follow that process, but it's my job as a board member to ensure that that process is being followed and it's being taken care of.
Yeah, and parents will show up to you if you're elected. They will show up to you very frustrated. Their life being their children, who
Absolutely.
they're getting bullied or having situations. They're gonna come up to you and they're gonna want answers and now. So
Yeah.
it is a very delicate thing. But I wanted you to kind of talk about what your thoughts on
Yeah.
bullying were. That way
Well,
people
and
saw it.
let me say too, DB, don't misconstrue the fact. Come to me, tell me about it, but know that my first question is always going to be, "What have you done in this process?" I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to empathize with you, and I'm going to say, "I hate that that happened. Let's talk about how we can resolve this. You know, let's work through this." And because I can guarantee you, there's not a principal or a teacher in this district that wants a kid to be bullied. There's not a principal or administrator or paraprofessional or teacher or person. And if there is, and we're employing them, then we missed the ball on that one. Okay. Because if we're loving kids first, we're protecting kids first as well.
Yeah, I apologize. I've gone a little longer than I told you, but we're covering some good stuff.
I love it, man. Let's roll.
Yeah, no, we're covering some good stuff. So the population is changing. Midlothian has grown exponentially. This is not the same place it was even when I got to the area in 2014. I mean, it's
Mhm.
changed quite a bit. So the schools are getting more ethnically diverse. You're getting different kids from different backgrounds coming in. Um, all have different experiences that are coming in. So, how, as a board member, um, would you want to deal with that? What would you like to see pushed to have kids that look different, that
Yeah.
feel comfortable in this environment?
Man, how do I want to deal with it? I want to celebrate it. I want to stand from the rooftops and yell about it and say, we have people from all different walks of life that are coming to MISD and choosing our district because they feel safe here. And if they don't feel safe, then it's our job to make sure that they do. But man, that's a blessing. That's a great thing to have diversity and to have people from all different walks of life. I don't want my kids going to a school where everybody's the exact same and they think the exact same. I want them to be challenged by their peers and questioned in their thoughts and their beliefs. But I also want to, in my home, make sure that I train them to stand firm on those beliefs,
Yep.
what they believe, but and respect the beliefs of others. So man, that's a
Yeah.
celebration.
And you know, the other part of that conversation is DEI, CRT. Those are national conversations, but they've made it into the schools. And so, as a matter of fact, even the
Yeah,
state has passed a law to try to keep it out of the schools. So they're you know, you can argue either way whether it's this or that, but those are hot button issues with parents. So I want your thoughts on, you know, CRT or any derivative of that, and DEI in
yeah,
schools. Is it appropriate to have in schools?
yeah. When it comes to teaching and curriculum, the only three letters we need to worry about is TEA. They say what we can teach. They set our curriculum. They set the teaks. And so if it's not in there, which none of that stuff is, then it's a mute point. You know, where
Oh, yeah.
it doesn't have a place.
Okay. Hey, and you know what?
Yeah,
They do. That's one thing. Thank you for educating folks on that, because curriculum is set. You know, a lot of it is set, or most of it is set on TEA level, and then the state board, you know, when they go through that.
yeah,
But before I close out, brother, I wanted to talk about
yeah.
something else that's near and dear. In recent years, people have had to bury their babies because of violence. It's
Hmm.
awful, demonic violence, because there's no, it's evil, has hit our schools throughout the country. And so recently, in the last, you know, 2 weeks, you had two different incidents where, you know, one kid had a weapon, supposedly, that I don't remember the exact wording of that MPD pulled out, but you had
Hmm.
one kid that got caught with a gun and another kid who was threatening to shoot up the school, or brown and black kids. It was just bad.
Yep.
As a board member, what would it, I mean, now we have a school officer in every campus,
Yeah.
state law. Is there anything that you'd like to see more that the school is doing? Maybe get more training. The FBI offers training on hardening schools. Would you like to see something like that?
Man, I tell you what, you talk about a tough topic, DV. This is a tough topic, but it's a real topic that we have to talk about. And thinking back to those two incidents that just happened in the recent weeks, the first thing we need to do is applaud the MPD. We applaud the MPD and we applaud our SROs for the amazing job that they did by putting a stop to that as soon as it was heard. I've had the absolute pleasure to work side by side with Commander Hicks, Sergeant Albert, and all of our amazing SROs who do a great job paired with the MPD hand in hand to ensure that our kids are safe. I think that it's a huge blessing that we now are in the works of training and making sure that we have an SRO at every single campus. You talk about someone that's ready to lay it all down for our kids. That's that's what they do. Sorry.
No, no, no. I get it. I get it. That's what they do. You know, that's when you throw a uniform on, you take that kind of responsibility. Unfortunately, there's nothing worse than that experience, because as a society, we take care of our babies, And
Yep.
so when something, that's why I say it's evil, it's demonic, it's awful. And I'm sorry to get my opinion into that, but it's kids. So
Yeah.
yeah, last thing before I have you close out is,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't have saved it for last, but we've been talking so many things. Special education. It's near and
Yeah.
dear to my heart. It's near. Special education doesn't get nearly the recognition that it should. You don't have like big award ceremonies going on for special education. There's always problems with funding for special
Hmm.
education. There's sometimes there's problems with parents getting services. So
Yep.
I want you to kind of speak on special education. If a oh, also restraints on special education kids, if you could
Yep.
talk about that. I just kind of
Absolutely.
want you to talk special ed.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You talk about near and dear to my heart. Those were the special ed. I've got a shirt that I still love to wear, and you know what it says? It says all kids are our kids. That's every kid, you know. And when we talk about loving kids first, it's every single kid. Every kid that walks through those doors is important. Every kid that walks through those doors is our responsibility to see them grow. It doesn't matter where they started. It doesn't matter what program they're in, what classroom they're in. Those kids are our kids, and it's our responsibility. I've loved getting to work hand in hand with special education teachers, with diagnosticians, and with parents to set goals for those special ed kids. And you say there's no celebrations, man. And I know you sat in an art before. When you get to celebrate a student reaching their goals, I'm gonna get emotional again. You're gonna make me cry again.
Mm.
That's the most exciting thing that you see when a parent's eyes light up when you tell them that their child hit their goal for their year. That's a celebration.
I did. It was
Fun,
in my house.
yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Funding, man, funding across the board is always an issue, and so we always want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to serve and populate every single student, most especially our special education students. We want to, make sure that they're getting what they need, that they're being served in the correct classes. MISD made a change in the last couple of years to get students who, put in different areas based upon disabilities and based upon their needs and their goals, which are determined by their ARD committees. Um, man, special education has always been. I was extremely lucky when I was in Burleson ISD that I worked underneath a director named Lucretia Gertrell, who instilled in me a passion which I had already had to people like Melissa Wolf before I left for Burleson, and then when I came back, Shannon Thompson, who's over our special education for the district right now. You talk about great people who love kids first. You go to fight for a kid who and make sure that they're getting the services that they need, and it's all out war. We're going to make sure that they get what they need.
Yeah.
You talk about restraining. One of the toughest things that I've ever had to do is restrain a student because they're upset. They have a disability, and we can use that word. Okay, it's fine,
No, it's
because
okay. I don't.
they've been diagnosed with a disability and they're not real sure of what they're doing and they're acting out and they're going to cause harm to themselves or possibly another, and so you have to restrain them. But there's tactics and there's you have to go through a training and you have to do it properly, and you have to, when you're done, de-escalate, meet with your team, and make sure that you did it correctly, and those that it's all written down and it's all documented, and if it's done incorrectly, it needs to be addressed immediately.
Yeah, yeah, it really does because it can be done incorrectly. The kids that are autistic and they have different personality disorders and different things that go into it, that it could be very detrimental to them. But hey, I could have you on forever, and I didn't even get to talk about teachers, but you did mention you love teachers, students, and the pay. So now I'll shut up and give you the mic so you could speak directly to the parents and the people of
Yeah,
Midlothian.
absolutely. If you know people of Midlothian, if you have any other questions or you're curious my thoughts on anything, I'm absolutely an open book. I'm here to serve this community because I love this community. I love that my kids are here. I love that I've got other family here. I love that I've got friends here, and I love the campuses, the people, the teachers of Midlothian ISD. If you see me around town and you got a question, ask me. I told you, I'm an open book. Shoot me an email, give me a call. I'm not hard to find. Okay. I believe that I am the best person for this Midlothian ISD school board place number 3. I believe that if given the opportunity, I will serve this community with absolutely every fiber of my being. I believe that we all have a purpose in life. And I believe that right now, my purpose is to serve the students, the community, the teachers, the families, and everyone within MISD. And I look forward to that challenge.
Well, I told you it'd go by fast. It did go by fast because I mean, there was so many subjects and so many things affecting. There's so many things affecting education. As a prior educator, you understand that there is a lot of
Absolutely.
things. There's a lot of unnecessary things that get put on teachers. There's just so many things that are going on in education right now. It's in real flux. So if you're elected to be a board member, you got some big issues coming. And then with,
Absolutely.
with funding and budgets, if you're elected, you're gonna have some big ones. But thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate you answering these questions for the people of Midlothian. And I appreciate you wanting to serve your community. Can you stick around after the show?
You got it, buddy. Thanks,
Thank
DV.
you.